Welcome to CayceCooks, Culinary Trends from the Akashic Records. Today we are doing Cayce coddled eggs. Cayce told over 100 people when he recommended what they should eat for breakfast to have coddled eggs. Now, what exactly is a coddled egg? If you look up the definition, it says cooking an egg either in the shell or out in water that is gently warm, like below the boiling point. So very gently cooking it for a period of time. Cayce felt that eggs should be treated very gently, but he took it a step further. He said that a coddled egg, his way, is to put an egg in a container in water that's been brought to the boiling point, but then you turn the heat source off. So the egg is sitting in a bath of hot water, and there's no heat source after that. It's the heat of the hot water that cooks the egg. Almost every time he said to coddle an egg, he also said never fried, especially fried in grease. There was something about this harshness of the heat hitting the egg that was not good for our bodies. The first thing you have to do is figure out what container you're going to use to coddle your eggs. Now, there are a lot of things out there that are called either egg poachers or egg coddlers. This is a little crystal egg coddler. It's very common in Europe. You put the egg inside and you can add herbs or other seasonings, cheese or meat or whatever, and then you clip the lid on and you put it in the boiling water, but the water has to remain cooking. It has to stay, the heat source has to stay on. If you do this the Cayce way, it doesn't work. The crystal doesn't conduct the heat and the egg turns out uncooked. They're also, this is a little egg poacher. It makes a very lovely egg. You set this in the water, but again, there's something about this. It doesn't conduct heat enough, and if you turn the heat off, the egg doesn't cook. These are little poachers, silicone ones. They're great. They float in the water. If you're doing poached eggs and you're doing it the regular way, leaving the water on, the heat on, these are great. You just peel it out. You have a nice shaped egg, very attractive. But for Cayce's purposes, and none of these work. I've tried them all, and I've tried some other ones. The only one I've ever found that really works for this is this. It's called a poacher insert. It's a non-stick surface. This one is actually for 4 eggs. You can get them different sizes. I just found this Amazon.com. You can get Bed Bath & Beyond, wherever they sell cooking supplies. So this one I use, even if I'm only doing 1 or 2 eggs, this works for me. The next thing you do, once you figure out the size of your egg container, is you have to find a pan that it fits in. So I use this stainless steel frying pan because this is a large size thing and it fits in there perfectly. It has to be something with a lid. It doesn't have to be a tight seal, but it has to be a lid that's going to be tight enough so it'll keep the heat inside. Then what you do is you pour about, in this size pan, I pour about 1/2 inch of water. It's about 2 cups of water. Tap water is fine. It's not going to really touch the egg. You turn that on and kind of high, and then you cover it and you let it sit there until it reaches the boiling point. While you're doing that, we're going to prepare our eggs. The first thing I do, even though this is a non-stick container, it still sticks. So I'm going to spray it with a little bit of cooking spray. You can also use a little bit of butter or oil. Just going to spray it. We're making 2 eggs today, like I said, so I'm going to spray 2 of the cups. Truth be told, almost every time Cayce said to eat coddled eggs, he was actually saying to eat coddled egg in the singular. He highly recommended that breakfast be this multi-course meal that included toast and maybe crisp bacon and stewed fruits and juice and Ovaltine and all sorts of things, and a coddled egg. Well, that's great, and I do 1 sometimes, but in general, I am pretty quick with breakfast, and I like to eat sort of a 1-course meal, and I prefer doing 2 eggs. So that's what we're going to show you today. I think it's perfectly fine. Even though he recommended singular coddled egg the majority of the time, he did tell several people that they could eat eggs, so I think it's not a problem. The next thing Cayce said in almost every reading where he talked about eating eggs was that it should be yolk only or primarily yolk. Now that's interesting because in today's world, it's kind of trendy to eat egg whites as opposed to yolk. Somebody, I think, started some years ago saying that yolks have the fat, so if we leave them out, the egg will be healthier. So when you go to a restaurant and you read, on the healthy menu, it'll say an egg white omelet or whatever. I just cringe when I see that because it's the opposite of what Cayce said. He said that's the part of the egg that's really not good for you. We know that the white of an egg is acid forming in the body and the yolk is alkaline forming, and Cayce did recommend that our body be in an 80-20 alkaline acid balance. But he also recommended that we eat chicken and fish and all sorts of things that are acid forming and not egg whites. So I stay away from egg whites as much as possible. But I do find it a little bit uncomfortable to eat just the yolk. So since he said mostly yolk, I leave a little white in. And I'm going to show you how I do this and come up with 2 coddled eggs that look really normal, almost like whole eggs, and are really delicious. So, okay, first thing we have to do is when we're going to dump out some of the white, because we have to get rid of some of the egg white, I take out about the top third. It gives me a little bit of control here, and I just pour off. There's usually kind of a thicker part of the white, so that's most of the white, and then you just pop it into the prepared dish. Then I do the other one, same thing. You're just pouring it out. It's not too hard to do. It's kind of eyeballing. You just have to practice and figure out, okay, is that enough that's come out? Or so that looks pretty good. Pop it in the dish. Okay. Now, if you look at this, that's a lot of egg white that we're going to throw away. Delicious. Okay, I can tell the water's boiling now. So we're just going to set this in the pan, put the lid on, and turn off the water. Now, the length of time that you're going to cook your eggs will vary on several things. It's going to depend on how many eggs you're cooking at a time, what kind of pan you're using, and how you like your eggs. You might like them very soft. You might like them very well cooked. I like something kind of in between, and it's usually about 4 minutes. So I'll just take a little look at the clock and check back with it in a minute. Okay, while we're waiting for our eggs to cook, we're gonna do a couple things. I'm gonna pop a piece of toast in the toaster. This is a whole grain Russian rye. Cayce recommended whole grain breads most of the time. I mean, he recommended them to a lot of people. He liked a lot of heavy, dark breads. And so we're going to toast this one. In general, in Cayce's day, breads were pretty simple. They didn't have a lot of ingredients and additives and dough conditioners and preservatives and whatever. So he didn't talk a lot about avoiding those things. But I would highly recommend that you read the ingredient list on your bread and try and pick something healthy, something with the least amount of ingredients on the ingredient list. Okay, so let's pop that in. Then while we're waiting for that, I'm going to talk about vitamins, and I'm going to talk about hot water. Cayce recommended to a number of people that they drink a little bit of hot water, warm water, in the morning before breakfast, like the first thing in the morning. He said that this would help neutralize stomach acids and toxins that had accumulated overnight. So I think that sounds pretty good. I mean, the fact is, he only told a handful of people to do this, but I've done it for a long time. I feel like, well, if he told, those people to do it, it can't hurt, right? So that's what I do. And plus, it's just a reminder for me. This is when I take my vitamins, and I'm going to talk about vitamins a little bit too. But Cayce recommended vitamin supplements to a number of people, but for the most part, he always said, try and get your nutrition from the food. If you need a particular vitamin or mineral, look at what food is rich in that and eat that. That was always his preferred method. But he did acknowledge that sometimes people need supplementation. So I usually go to a doctor once a year, and we kind of analyze things and say, oh, maybe I need a little this or a little that, or not. When I am taking vitamins, I do it when I have my warm water in the morning. It's just a reminder for me. And this is how I take my vitamins. I just want to share with you while we still have a couple minutes waiting for our eggs. Cayce recommended most treatments or methodologies or supplements to be taken in patterns. He would say 1 drop one day, 2 drops the next, 3 drops the next, then stop for 3 days and start over. 3 days on for a pack, and then a day off, and then start over again for 3 times, and then skip, and then start the pattern over again. Everything was in patterns. He explained that any of these outer stimuli were meant to encourage the body to produce on its own. And that if you did something day in and day out, the same thing, that it would actually encourage the body to stop producing that. It would stop whatever the process is that we're trying to kickstart. That if we do it consistently day in and day out, it would make the body almost lazy in that regard and to not be producing that. So when you're taking vitamins, it's just something to think about. I've come up with a pattern that is easy for me to remember. I've been doing this for many years and it works for me. This is not from Cayce, but it's based on Cayce. What I do is, okay, so here I have a D and a probiotic. I'm not recommending these. Everybody's got to figure out their own vitamin thing, and whether or not you should take any at all, or supplements, probiotic supplement. But what I do is I take these 6 days of the week, and on Sunday, actually the first day of the week, I skip. So I'm taking them 6 days a week. Then the first 7 days of the month, so the first week of the month, I skip. I end up taking vitamins about 20 days of the month, so about 2/3 of the time each month I'm taking vitamins. And then once a year, for the entire first month of the year, so for January, for the month of January, I don't take any vitamins. So I'm skipping the first month, the first week of every month, and the first day of every week. It's just a little pattern that I've come up with, just that I think is going to help my body not become too dependent on the regularity of any supplement I'm taking, and so that's what I do. So I'm going to show you now. It's almost time for our eggs. When I take this, Cayce said we should be chewing our liquids, even water. So I pop in, and then you sip and chew. Voila. Our toast is popped up. We're going to put a little butter on it. Cayce was okay with butter. We recommended it many times for people. And now we're going to check our eggs. So I take out the insert. I'm going to try and hold it so you can see more easily. Now, if you can see these, they're not perfect. One has a little bit more of the white in than the other. It doesn't matter. They're both mostly yolk. And again, it's kind of an eyeballing situation. And I use a spoon to loosen it, and they just pop out and slide onto the toast. So there, and I'm going to now just put a few slices of some fresh orange. Cayce frequently recommended that we have citrus with our eggs. If we were having cereal, he would say no citrus, but a slice of toast was fine. He recommended that a lot. So if you can see that, it almost looks normal. It's hard to believe I think that we poured off all that white, and these are really delicious. So I want you to try this. It was said consistently that we should stay away from the white of the egg and that we should coddle our eggs. And so you can see it's an easy process, and it's delicious, and I think it's really healthy to do this. So give it a try, and there you have it. Cayce coddled eggs with some citrus on the side on whole grain rye toast. And enjoy. Let me know how you do. Thanks.